we're gonna see if when you're in Kentucky, if Kentucky Fried Chicken tastes any different. My route from Tennessee to Kentucky took me through Knoxville, where I stayed at a Harvest Host distillery that happened to have outstanding pizza, as well as to Nashville, where I visited the Hermitage, which is the home of our 7th president, Andrew Jackson. I've learned way more about American history on this trip than I ever learned in U.S. history class in high school, and I have really enjoyed these historical stops. I'm gonna go inside Andrew Jackson's house. No pictures inside.
I wonder why we can't take pictures. That's odd.
I don't know, but that is the way it is. So I'll just get my picture right here.
Those are great.
There are some areas where you can take photos from the outside looking in, and this house is filled with furniture and artifacts belonging to the Jackson family over 200 years old. Now, Jackson owned about 150 slaves, and so there are slave quarters on the property, which of course brings up mixed feelings about him. I tried to just focus on learning historical facts as I visited these expansive grounds and reserve my political views for another time and place. This was Andrew Jackson and his wife Rachel's first house after moving to Tennessee before he became a war hero in the War of 1812. And after he became war hero and president, that house over there became their new house. So definitely an upgrade. Here is where Andrew Jackson is buried in a garden adjacent to the mansion. What are 3 things I learned that I didn't know before? 1, I didn't know Andrew Jackson was a war hero and general from the War of 1812. 2, I didn't know his wife Rachel died just before he was about to take office as president. He grieved her loss terribly, and she is buried right here next to him. And 3, honestly, I didn't know he was from Tennessee. Continuing north to Kentucky, let's check out National Park number 47, Mammoth Cave. The entire park has had some recent severe storms, which resulted in about 800 toppled trees, according to the rangers. Many of these trees would block roadways and trails. I saw plenty of storm damage during my visit. Park staff were busy cleaning it up, but it's going to take some time. Okay, so this is really interesting. The recent windstorm that knocked down these trees, these are cedar trees, and if you get close, it smells just like a cedar chest. Oh, I know you shouldn't collect anything from the national parks, but part of me just wants to take this piece of wood and stick it in my clothes bin. But I'm not gonna, of course. But oh, yeah, that's really interesting and cool. Cedar. I was extremely fortunate to have the most outstanding weather during my 5-day visit. I had a very full 5 days here. I could have probably stayed a week and had more of the park to see. Mammoth Cave National Park has just as much going for it above ground as underground. You already know how much I love hiking, biking, and caving, so this is the park for me. Now let's get a layout. The Green River bisects the park. Up north is the back country where there is a ton of hiking and biking opportunities. The fastest way to get there is to cross the Green River via a short ferry ride from here. Bad news. I'm looking longingly here at the Green River Ferry because it's closed due to some mechanical issue and may be closed the entire time I'm here, which means that the other side of the park across the river over there is inaccessible to me except by a very long drive. So that's why I'm standing here at the gate looking longingly at the Green River Ferry. But I have 3 more days here,
So who knows? Maybe by some miracle, the ferry will open within the next 3 days, but I'm not going to plan on it.
Okay, let's start above ground because I found there was plenty to keep me busy, even with the ferry out of commission. Here's a close-up view of the visitor center area. I was thrilled that the campground is within a 10-minute walk of the visitor center. As I usually do, I start there at the visitor center to make a plan on what I want to see and to learn about the geology and history of the area and the park. The exhibits in the visitor center are particularly well done.
There's something deep inside us that calls us on to explore new territory, to see beyond our daily travels.
There are several miles of trails leading right from the visitor center and the campground, the red dotted lines on this map. I'd say it took about 4 to 5 hours to hike these trails. The hiking is easy to moderate and filled with lots of informational exhibits to expand on what you learned at the visitor center.
This is cool. So this is where the river Styx emerges from the cave system. And on one of these tours, hopefully I'll see the river Styx inside the cave.
Now here's a fun thing to do. Scattered around the visitor center and campground area, there are these markers that tell you about cave features that are right below your feet. If you want to learn a little bit more about those cave features, pull up the NPS app, say "aw" because you miss your dog so much, and then click on the self-guided tour section. Scroll to that feature, and there you can learn more about it and see photos of it. In this case, I'm looking forward to seeing this feature, Fat Man's Misery, on one of my upcoming tours. National parks are not known for the abundance of mountain biking trails, but Mammoth Cave has one that extends all the way from the visitor center about 9 miles to the south to Park City. You know I can't resist, so one afternoon I plan to bike to Park City and get some dinner. This dirt and gravel trail roughly follows a train line that used to ferry visitors from Park City to Mammoth Cave until the advent of cars in the early 1900s. Now, I say roughly follows because there are a couple of very steep sections where you'll probably need to walk your bike up and down the grade. Also, I wouldn't attempt this trail with a road bike. You're gonna need a trail bike with sturdy tires. Now, no offense to Park City, but there's really nothing there. And the only restaurant I saw was closed, probably until the tourist season begins. A story that fascinated me was the story of caver Floyd Collins, who died when he got trapped exploring Sand Cave. I could tell it to you, but not nearly as well as Ranger Taylor here.
Exploring one day as he's coming out, he had messed up. He spent too much time on the ground. The reason he's heading out is he noticed his lantern start to flicker. He was running low on fuel. And as he's easing through this crawlway, he makes a mistake. He knocks the lantern over and he goes out. And he's plunged into total darkness. And so as he tries to creep along, just by feel, he knows he's pretty close to being, in the kind of the daylight area of the cave. He's maybe 80 feet from the entrance. He lifts one foot just a little too high and picks a rock. The rock falls and wedges his other foot between it and the boulder. Now he's trapped. And he waits overnight. People realize he's missing. They go down to the cave. There's his coat by the entrance. This is late January 1925. He took his coat off because it's warmer in the cave than out. And this kid crawls down in the cave and yells, "Floyd, are you down there?" Floyd says, "Yeah, I'm down here." He said, "I'm stuck. Go get help." And that starts what would be a 2-week-long period of time trying to get Floyd Collins out of Sand Cave. And it becomes this huge national news story. So if you're a child of the 80s, you might remember Baby Jessica in the well, or you might remember just a decade or so ago when those Chilean miners are stuck underground. It becomes one of those big stories. There's this guy, he's trapped underground. They're trying to get him out. Are they going to make it in time? And they didn't. They're going in and out every day, taking him food, trying to remove debris, trying to dig him out. And one night, there's a collapse between Floyd and the entrance from all that traffic going in and out and the ground thawing. This plan of digging a shaft to get behind Floyd, it took 3 days. By the time they get to him, he died inside the cave. That news story is really the reason you're at a national park today. There had been this talk, trying to get Mammoth Cave, be in the discussion, be in on that list of national parks. But the Floyd Collins incident kind of is what puts us over the top of, okay, now we're going to accept it as a national park. 1925, Floyd Collins dies in Sand Cave. 1926, in an effort to prevent something like that from happening again and to preserve the caves in this area.
Okay, time to go underground. One of the things you need to know about Mammoth Cave is that the mammothedness of the caves would not be possible without the sandstone layer that covers the cave system. This acts like a roof over the caves and has the effect of channeling water through sinkholes that create large underground rivers that then carve out extensive cave passages over millions of years. Since there's this sandstone roof, you don't get any drip drip inside the caves, so the caves lack speleothems like in Carlsbad. That's a new Scrabble word for you to go look up. Speleothems are like stalagmites and stalactites. Mammoth Cave has its own unique appeal, and it is the longest cave system in the world, currently at 426 miles, with more being discovered each year. The cave tours only scratch the surface, and there's maybe 5 miles accessible to underground tours. That's still a lot to see. All cave tours depart from the visitor center, and you can only see a very short section of the cave if you go on a self-guided tour. To really see the best parts of the cave, you need to join a ranger-led tour, and as usual, you should plan well in advance if you want to see the best parts of Mammoth Cave.
So everything in blue is sold out, and it's, what time is it? Like 9 a.m.
9:12.
9:12. All right. And everything in white.
Oh, she just
So-
left.
So really, is the message here, make sure you get your tickets online early?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Thank you.
Now, I've had my tour tickets in hand for weeks, and I was able to go on 5 separate tours ranging from 90 minutes to 4 hours. The cave tours that are offered at any given time depend on the conditions in the caves as well as ranger availability. My first tour was the historic tour, which was by far the largest tour group at 120 visitors. On some tours, you'll walk to the historic entrance, and others will bus you to other cave entrances in the area.
Oh, this is a big chamber. It's huge.
Sure, there are huge passages in Mammoth Cave, but on some sections you gotta be able to crouch, stoop, and bend. Remember Fat Man's Misery? Well, here it is.
Oh, more misery to come.
Rangers were just always so very knowledgeable and took us by the greatest features like Giant's Coffin and Mammoth Dome.
This is Mammoth Dome. Very cool.
Other great features included Cleveland Avenue, the occasional bat, pretty cool, historical cave graffiti from as early as 1798, and I finally got to see that underground river. When the water table descends in a million years, this location will become the newest cave passage. There's also the bottomless pit, which is over 100 feet deep, so I guess it's not bottomless, but when I walked over it, it sure felt that way.
It's the bottomless pit.
The Wandering Woods tour takes you to one of the sections of the caves that actually have speleothems. Did you look up that word yet? Speleothems. On my final day at Mammoth Cave, I went on the Violet City Lantern Tour, which is a 3-hour-long tour through an unlit section of the cave. This was by far my favorite cave tour. We took lanterns only, and only 32 people were on this hike. It was a unique experience to see the cave as discoverers would have experienced it. Except, of course, we did have a hiking trail and a ranger guide. Mammoth Cave Park Rangers are the ones who make a visit to the caves interesting and memorable. I wanted to shout out to one in particular, and that's Ranger Heather. She was assigned to lead 3 of my 5 tours, which was very lucky for me. We struck up conversations and had the best time chit-chatting. So a huge thanks to all of our rangers, and especially Heather. And these are my campground neighbors, Tony and Kathy, who recently visited Indiana Dunes National Park. They told me to look for the trail next to Site 113, so when I get there in a few weeks, I'll be sure to take their advice. Okay, one closing note about Kentucky.
Okay, so here's the verdict. I think in Kentucky, the chickens are smaller. I don't think they have potatoes here because the potatoes were like instant. And the biscuit was really teeny too, so they must have a flour shortage, I'm guessing. A real flour shortage. So that's my verdict of Kentucky Fried Chicken in Kentucky. I'm gonna have to give it a thumbs down.